Hey, Rick Hansen here with singer, songwriter, recording artist, and podcaster, the amazing Bonnie Keen.
From the heart to the mic, on the field, on the stage, faith in they step as they turn the next page. Athletes, actors, musicians, authors, and more, sparking the flame, lifting up Jesus unashamed of his name. Life stories of struggle, redemption, and grace. Victories rising from a broken place. Legends of life with a purpose to show how God shows up when you let him flow. Amazing grace shining bright, living the faith in the spotlight. Hearts on fire, now let it go. Turn it up, it's time to start the show.
Well, welcome to Amazing Greats, where we have today a new friend of mine, Bonnie Keen, who is a recording artist, a singer, a songwriter, a podcaster, an author, a mentor. Is there anything I'm missing along the lines of your title?
A mother, a grandmother.
Oh, there you
Yes,
go.
yeah, yes.
Yeah, and so we had the pleasure of talking to you. This just being a month after the launch of a new album, a self-titled album, your only
Yes.
self-titled album, right?
Yes, correct. Yes, this is my fourth solo project, and it's just called Bonnie Keen. Easy to find. Yeah,
Exactly. And I had a chance to spot check a few things off the album because I was, scoped you out on YouTube here and there, and it just
yeah.
sounds fabulous. So let's start from the
Thank
beginning.
you.
Bonnie
All
Keen.
right, all right.
First of all, you're a Nashville native.
Yes.
And so is it actually incumbent on a Nashville native to be a singer right from the get-go? Is that what?
It kind of seems like it should be, but no. I mean, of course, country music is huge here, and I was never a country vocalist, but I definitely grew up with a ton of musical influences in my life, classical music, rock, pop, musical theater, all are my background. And I've come to really appreciate more about country over time. But it's a lot of people move here to get into the business, so it's
A-
kind of wild.
Absolutely. So
Yeah.
tell me about the origin story. When did you first kind of realize, hey, I like singing. I'm pretty good at it.
Rick, I was thinking about this morning because I was with Babby Mason yesterday, which I'm sure your viewers would love to know about more about her. And we were talking about the history of how we ended up where we are. And I mean, I think for me personally, as a very young child, I grew up in a very abusive home environment.
Really?
Uh, I haven't often spoken about it, but I feel like I really must just include it because of God's great mercy in it. I was physically abused quite a bit and verbally abused, and I was scared to death of everything. But in the middle of a lot of that fear, like 4 or 5 years old, God really used music to just speak to me that He was there. I don't know if that makes sense, but I started playing piano by ear when I was very young. I would hear a melody and kind of pluck it out. And I studied piano musical. You wouldn't know it now, but I studied classical music for 13 years as a pianist, which really has helped me in a lot of ways. And I grew up in a very, very rigid, graceless church environment. But I loved hymns, and the hymns that I learned, the theology and hymns have stayed with me. So I'm very grateful. But I thank God, and I really feel like God saved me in many ways, first of all, as a very young child through music. He let me know there was something very beautiful, that there was a love that was greater than what I was experiencing around me that was abusive. And in many ways, he saved my life. So I started this journey of learning music and started to write when I was 8 or 9 years old, those silly little songs you write. And changed my name to Julie Rose. I wanted to be somebody else. I have a publishing company now called Julie Rose Music after that little person. And
Really?
then when I was in middle school, I started, well, and really when I was elementary to middle school, started doing some local theater and really fell in love with musical theater, Sondheim, and a lot of what I was hearing there. And at the same time, I was loving Steppenwolf and the Eagles. And so it was like this mishmash of music, but I didn't really ever study voice. I took a little bit of voice in high school, just a little. I think I've studied enough to know how to not hurt my voice and how to keep it healthy.
Oh,
And it's funny now because I do some adjunct work at Lipscomb University as a vocal coach, which is funny because I don't have a degree, but I have a life degree, I think. But I began to really see that music vocally. I mean, I began to really love being a vocal performer in high school and college, I guess that age. I went on the road with a bunch of top 40 bands. I played in clubs every night, smoke-filled clubs, 5 hours a night, which is crazy because I was this very, very faithful little Christian girl up there singing, all these crazy songs. And God just took care of me through all that, but he kept pouring more love for music into me. And then when I was very young in the business, I was just starting to do some dates around town. My next door neighbor ended up being one of Amy Grant's managers, Mike Blanton. And Mike, he knew that I was a vocalist. And he said, called me one day. He said, we're going to take this girl named Amy on the road and we're going to put a backup group with her in a band. Would you want to go? I had never heard of Amy Grant. I had never heard of any Christian music other than hymns. So I said, great. That sounds like great work. I mean, even then, like God, I didn't have a clue what I was going to be doing or where God was going to take me. But I was on the road with Amy and then Russ Taff when he left the Imperials. He's like my brother, and I was out with him for 2.5 years. And then First Call kind of started doing studio work. So it was literally just, it's been a lifeline. I'll just put it that way. Music has been a lifeline and completely the grace of God.
So at what time kind of did you break away from this abusive situation?
Oh my goodness. I turned, when I was around 17, I was always reading the Bible, and I began to realize that what I was being told was not what the Bible was telling me. It was not the truth of the word. And I began to be freed up to realize the breadth and the height and the depth of God's love, and not to diminish his holiness. I'm not a deconstructor in any way of the word of God. I feel like Jesus said, I am the word. In John 1:1 is one of my favorite verses. He is the word. If we start taking it apart, we take him apart. But the truth and the beauty of the word started saving me. I started journaling about it when I was 18, 19. And then under a lot of great pastors here in Nashville that taught biblical truth and the grace of God together. I was in my late teens, early 20s when I never looked back at that again, really. I feel like I was delivered from it.
Really? Isn't that amazing? There's a God's gift right there from the get-go.
And I was taught that to sing about your faith on a platform was sin. And to sing with an instrument was sin. I was taught that anything in that genre, and especially theater, was bad. So the irony that God took me out of that environment and poured into me this love of music and this love of him that gave me an entire body of work for my whole life. Honoring him, it's just the greatest thing. It blows my mind.
It blows my mind. That is incredible. Yeah. So the start of your musical career, you're making a living at it, was in session work, which for our audience, session work really means you get a phone call, somebody's recording something and they want backup vocals. It's to kind of explain what a session artist does.
Yeah, I didn't know anything about it either. So you definitely are in a very small sector of people that are called professionally to sing for a living, and that's the gift of it as well. But you have to be able to read music very fast or to do a number system with chord charts. And what a producer does, he calls in the people, he calls it first call, his first call guitar player, his first call string players, his first call drummer, and the first call vocalists. This is the sound I want. These are the people I want. They call you in. Many times there's no chart at all. They just play the song down and they say, what do you hear? What do I hear? You make it up in the moment. You've got to be really fast and have a good blend. And also, if you're called in for charts that are written, you got to be able to read them pretty fast right there in the moment and do it.
Yeah.
And right away, you have to be pretty quick on your feet and vocally agile. So I'm pretty schizophrenic. That's how I would call it vocally. I can do the high soprano, legit stuff. I can do the rock stuff. I've got, a little bit of all kinds of sounds. And Mel Tunney, an alto that I adore that was in First Call, and Marty McCall, this brilliant tenor who was in Fireworks and First Call, we would begin to be hired for the same sessions. And then pretty soon just the three of us were hired because we had this unique sound together. So we sat down and said, let's just market all of our contacts and call ourselves First Call and make up some business cards and try to see how much work we can get together. And of course, we ended up being called every day. I mean, we were in the studio every day and singing backup on country artists' albums. And then, like Sandy Patty, Steve Green, Larnell Harris, Wayne Watson, Michael W. All these people were calling us, and it was wonderful. And all three of us had decided we didn't want to be on the road. We would just stay at Nashville. We had very young children. And then Sandy asked us to go on the road with her on this massive tour she did in 1986, 87. And
Sandy,
then
who? Sandy.
Sandy Patty, Rock Me Sandy
Okay.
Patty.
Okay. Yep. Yep.
Yes, greatest vocalist. And we began to get record offers, and we recorded a project called Evening in December, which was an all a cappella Christmas project. We had recorded that for Word just as a studio group. And then it's still like blows. That was 40 years ago, and we're still having people discover that project. And what a gift that was. And so we began to look at each other and say, what is happening here? Because we did not anticipate having a ministry together. And again, only God can do something like that, putting us together, knitting our hearts together. We love Jesus. We knew that together. We had that commonality. But we began a 14 album, 25-year ministry from there on. And the whole thing is just, I look back and just go, this has just been an incredible gift after gift. Great producers, arrangers, writing. It's just been awesome.
And then career-wise, there was a moment that took a dip because there was as I understood it, there was a scandal that took place. Can you walk us through that? This is with the three of you, right?
Yes, this was yes. Mel Tunney, the original alto, she left the group to do some work with her husband about 4 or 5 albums into our career. And then when she left, we hired another alto, a magnificent singer, and we began to do some more tours. And it was on one of those tours with a very major male Christian artist who is like huge in the industry, that they had an affair that started on the road. And it broke nationally. The news broke about it. They split up their marriages. We lost our record contract overnight. I will preface this by saying too that both Michael English was the artist that she had the affair with, and Maribeth. We are still very good friends. We love each other. We have lots of peace between us now. But at the time, it took Marty and I, who were just like going, "What is happening here?" It took our wind out of us. We had already been signed to another record contract as a trio. We lost that contract. We had record labels say we don't know who they are, that had just made pictures with us.
Mm.
It was a painful time, but then again, I have to say, looking at what God did with it, Marty McCall and I recorded another Christmas project with Warner Alliance, who signed us as a duo, that many people may not know about because it's not been available online, and it's just become available on all streaming platforms now in the last year. So if you haven't heard Beyond December, check that project out, because that was, again, like First Call started with this a cappella Christian project, and then the second incarnation of Healing with us, another Christmas project. And we had guest artists on it: Amy Grant, Larnell, Russ Taff, Ashley Cleveland. And then we did a song with Mel, like an a cappella homage tribute to Evening in December. And it was a healing, really, really special project. But yeah, it really took the wind out of us. It was a depressing time. I went into a clinical depression during that time. And because I had gone through some divorce issues and single parenting, and honestly, I hit wall after wall of loss in my life personally. And when the group hit that kind of wall, I just took a nosedive. And but and there again, I just
was
had
God's
to
lesson
God.
there? Where was he headed with you? We know that God is always good, but these seem not so good. What good came out of it?
Yeah, my marriage had broken up over the same issues of infidelity, so it hit me really hard that it happened again in my ministry. And then I felt like, I think I was trying to do an awful lot of things on my own power. I'll power through it. I have a very good pastor who walked me through this healing process. After that, I had a great therapist, counselor, a great pastor, great circle of friends. And I wrote a book called The Ladder Out of Depression, which is kind of my journey through that. But I think you have to heal physically. I wasn't eating. I couldn't sleep. My body was just depleted. It's like, is it Elijah who was in the cave and the angel said, you just need to eat something first? Like when he finally just said, I don't want to live anymore. You need to eat something first and sleep. There's a way our body has to get back to ground zero.
Yeah.
And I took a little bit of medication to help my body rest and try to get some strength back. And then I think what really God brought out of it for me was letting go of what I thought my life was going to look like and just trusting Him with what was coming and just letting go of everything. I wrote a song on my first solo project called The Day I Laid My Isaac Down. And it's really one of my favorite life songs because it's about just letting go, like Abraham laid his Isaac down, just trusting God with everything that you don't understand.
Mhm.
And truly, God had met me in all that darkness. I couldn't believe that God was in the middle of the darkness with me. That's been something I've never forgotten. And thankfully, I've never gone to that depth again. But I also have a great compassion for people who struggle with depression. I mean, Jesus sweat drops of blood in Gethsemane, and that's a medical condition under great stress. People will sweat drops of blood. He understands our human condition, which really, I guess, Rick, it really strengthened my faith all the way around,
Mhm.
moving forward. So, yeah, but it was quite
Yeah.
a journey. Quite, you're going to talk about a dip. It was quite a dip there. Yes,
You had how many children did you have?
I have
Uh,
two. I have a
you,
daughter
you,
and a son. Yeah.
okay. And they're grown now, I'm guessing,
Yes,
right?
they are.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
they are. And I have
And you
two
have
little
grandkids.
grandchildren. Yes, I have 2 and 4 year old.
Did you ever remarry or no?
I did, and and I don't want to really, I hope I'm not being depressing here, but I went through another divorce in 2020. So, it gives me no pleasure to be able to have to say that to anybody. I hate divorce, but once again, it was inevitable, and I don't think I couldn't have stayed in that situation. I was physically dying, and a group of friends of mine that have known me for 35 plus years came in around me, and they said, you need to get out of this. And once again, I felt like such a failure, but God has met me in this in a whole new way again. I mean, I know God hates divorce. I hate divorce, but sometimes it is inevitable for some people to be able to stay in a very abusive situation. And I think to tie what I first started talking to you into this a little bit, when you grow up in an abusive parent who is daily abusing you and then daily saying, I love you. I grew up with those messages. I will punish and hurt and beat you, but I also love you. So
Hmm.
I think I married somebody that did that and it felt normal until I couldn't do it anymore. So yeah, but I got to say it's been 5 years, almost 5 years. And I was also given the message you'll never be effective in ministry again after this, don't ever raise your head up again. So this new album is a real gift from God to me. Larry Hall, my producer, has been another healing place for me to work with. He and his wife Susan came to me about doing this project, and I've got to say, I just feel like that God has just filled my cup to overflowing to give me this season again.
You've taken these hard times and used them for good in your mentoring and in your speaking
Right.
and in your writing of books. So that's a way that you have given back based on the lessons you've learned, right? So tell me,
I hope so. Yeah,
tell me how many you've authored. How many books do you
I've
have?
authored three books by myself, and then I have a podcast called Women Who Dare to Believe. That's about the women of the Bible that I've co-wrote a 2 semester Bible study with the other woman that I do this podcast with, Nan Gurley. And so that's like five. And I'm working on putting together a very small book about each song in my new album that just tells you
Oh,
where it came from because I wrote most of it and what the scripture references are and what God gave me in the songs. So I'm looking at doing that too. So I love writing. It's very therapeutic for me.
yeah.
Hard. I'm not an easy writer. I mean, I labor over it, but I enjoy it.
Yeah. So
So
let's jump back just a quick second because you were kind of in this era where contemporary Christian music was just starting
oh,
to blossom. And so artists at that time, today there's radio stations across the country, there's K-Love, there's concert
right.
tours. It is big and
Huge
spreading.
arenas. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And so, but you were there at the beginning. Who are some of your contemporaries, and what did
Oh
uh,
my.
what did that look like back then?
We often, when we see each other, the artists from that time and the musicians, we just marvel at what a renaissance it was, Renaissance time.
Yeah.
We were all discovering the fact that we could write about our faith in our own voice, in our own musical voice, in our own genre, and we could just explore how to verbalize the gospel in those times in a different way. Of course, I was out with Amy Grant. I was around Michael W. Smith and Wayne Watson and Steve Green, and these men of great gravitas as theologians themselves, like a Larnell Harris. Russ Tapp has been through hell and back in his life, and credits Christ with delivering him. We were all on the road together, and we were all just listening to each other's music. Take Six had come out right after First Call. We were just blown away by the creativity and the talent. Sandy, there's so many artists I can't even think of all of them, but it was before. I don't know if you. I hope this sounds right. We were all doing this before, like the PowerPoint praise kind of thing started happening, where you didn't, you just kind of watched the screen and sang along with whoever was leading worship, which I think dumbed down some of the music a little bit. I think it did for me anyway. That shows you how old I am, maybe. But I like the storytelling aspect of pop music and pop jazz and roots. And I think it was just so wonderful to be able to work prolifically with not a lot of guardrails. I mean, we would keep each other accountable lyrically and what we were saying and all that, but it was an open field of exploration.
Yeah.
And Rick Kua, oh, what a wonderful man. And Kenny Marks and Found Free. I mean, Greg and Becca Sparks are amazing. And we go to California and we meet all these other people. It's just, and there again, because I didn't have any history of knowing anything about like Love Song or Chuck Girard or these wonderful people that discovered since.
Yeah.
It was all so new to me. And I will always be really grateful that we were in the era when it was a little bit smaller, maybe.
Yeah.
But we played arenas with Sandy and some of those things, but it was quite a creative pool of people always pinging off each other.
In my history, I was kind of wandering around without much spirituality going on back in those days. I was a rock and roll radio DJ, right? So,
Yeah.
so it was fun. It was fun and crazy, and I loved the career.
Yeah.
And I, in hindsight, attribute all of that to God's grace for making that happen for me. Because every
Yes.
day going into the radio station and playing the hits was like a vacation. It was just fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going tonight to sing downtown. I sing with a group of musicians who are all from that era. We do an Eagles Henley cover band called the Eagle Maniacs, and we're all Christians, and everybody on stage has worked together for years. It's so much fun, but that music is just amazing. Yeah. So I have a great love for all that music too.
And I have a great appreciation today for contemporary Christian music. Back then, and that's why I like hearing your stories and stories from the day, when it all started, because I didn't know that day, but I know today. And I attribute that's God's gift to me because I liked rock and roll. I liked music. Music was a big part of my life, even though I'm not a musician. So to hear like artists like Phil Wickham and Chris Tomlin and Lauren Daigle and CeCe Winans and all
Brandon
of these.
Lake. Yes,
and Brandon Lake.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is, I really think that's what brought me back to my faith. Because I did hear those gospel stories and so forth put into language that I loved, and it all blended and made sense to me. So I was raised a Catholic.
That's a great way to define it too. Put in the language that you could relate to.
Yeah. I think that's what God does.
Sorry. Yes.
Yeah. So my Catholic background, it was all about people in robes singing hymns that I did not resonate with at all. It's like, what's all this?
What is this? Yeah.
I like the Beatles, and I want to hear, Freddie and the Dreamers. And
Absolutely. I still do. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a Sting cover on my new project that I did all the vocals on called If I Ever Lose My Faith. And I'm a big Sting fan. Yeah. I mean, I listen to all kinds of music. Whatever's good music is good to hear, I think.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So are you anticipating or are you doing any on the road kind of stuff with the new album, or is it,
I'd like to. Yes, I'm
yeah.
talking with some booking agents right now. I kind of stopped doing that for a while, and I think 2020 stopped everybody down for various reasons. But I'm really excited. I'm doing some local events right now, but I'm looking forward to sharing this as much as possible because I enjoy a live setting. I like looking people in the face and feeling that energy. It's really, really electric to me, and that's what brings the music to life is when you're in a live setting and you see other people enjoying it and getting what you're talking about. It's just there's nothing like it. Yeah.
Well, God bless you for being able to continue a career that you love, and like
Yes.
my radio career, your career is like
Yes.
this is me. This is what I love doing, right?
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I want to leave this world with my boots on. Doing what I do as long as the Lord allows me to. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So how's the family now? So does your kids, your grandkids live in town, or are they scattered?
Yes. My daughter and her husband and children live here, which is great because I would have to move wherever they lived. I can't stand to be away from my grandchildren for very long. I just crave them. Do you have grandkids?
I do not yet. I just have
Oh,
a son
it's
who's getting
something.
married. So,
Oh, you're about to find out. Yeah. I told my daughter it's like my heart grew another chamber or something. I have to get my hands on those little chunky kids. But they live about 20 minutes away, so I'm very involved in their lives, which is great. And then my son, I don't get to see as often. He's an actor, singer, dancer. He's on the national tour of Spamalot right now, and I think he's playing the Kennedy Center for 3 weeks in December. So I only get to see him a couple of times a year, but we're very close. My kids and I, we always have been.
and have they found a relationship with Jesus as well along the way?
One has, and one is still struggling very hard.
Yeah.
So lots of
Okay.
prayer there.
Yeah, no kidding. We can all
Yes,
pray for that for sure.
yes,
Um,
absolutely.
After all of the who are of contemporary Christian artists,
Yes.
who would say you would say that are some of your favorites right now?
Like right now or over time?
Well, let's go with over time and right
Okay.
now.
Over time, I would have to say Rich Mullins, who I was very honored to work with quite a bit. He was unique in that he just lived this unique life of seeking God and asking questions and I loved his writing. And whenever we were asked to sing backup for him, in the studio, it was like I couldn't wait because I knew it would be like a lots of conversation. Because you'd go in the studio and he would just say, "Hey, come listen to this. I don't know if it's good or not." You go sit at the piano bench and he's playing you this incredible song. And he goes, "What do you think?" And I'm like, "Oh my word," And he go, "I don't know what I think about this verse in the Bible." He was always searching, seeking. I remember losing him was very hard, but I love introducing his music to younger people. I'm always going to love Russ Taff's music, and I get to sing with him quite a bit. I have sung on his projects a lot. I think contemporary now, who I'm discovering, I love Brandon Lake's writing. I love
Yeah.
his voice. I think he's just this powerhouse. I know he gets a lot of criticism, but I really resonate with his lyrics.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
What
love
does he get
Bill Witham.
criticism about? Just out of
Oh, I
curiosity.
think he'll just
His
do
long
something.
hair or something?
Like I think, and I didn't watch the Dove Awards this year, but there was like, and he does this great song with Jelly Roll, which I love. Um, that some people have trouble with, and I'm like, no, I get being able to say hallelujah through hell. I get the grit it takes in your faith. Um, he did something where they put rain on him or something, which I'm like, well, whatever. If you've got a big arena show and they've got all the bells and whistles, they're going to throw fire at you and they're going to whatever. But I think his music is really moving. I love CC has been rock solid, strong as a believer, as a leader, as somebody that's inspired all of us to do the best we can from the first moment I met her, in the 80s. I absolutely respect and revere her work very, very much. And I'm still discovering a lot of people that are new because there's so many out there.
Yeah.
Andrew Rip, I
Yeah.
really love his writing. If people don't know him, you've got to look up Andrew Ripp, R-I-P-P. Yeah.
Okay, that's great. So now, for those people who might be listening and are going through that valley, they're a bit overwhelmed with what's going on in their lives. And because you've been there, done that, and you've talked about it and you've written about it, what would you say to that person right now?
I would say that you must remember that God is right there with you in the middle of what you feel like maybe he can't look at with you. He's there. And I love the amplified translation of the Bible because it has the Greek and the Hebrew meanings all kind of spelled out.
Hmm.
And Isaiah 41:10, which I know a lot of people love, about God saying, "Don't be afraid, fear not, my righteous right hand will uphold you." In the amplified translation, this really came to life for me, and I would say this to you. It says to not be afraid, to look around you in dismay, for I am with you. I will strengthen and harden you to difficulties by my righteous right hand, and I will never leave you. Now, I'd never heard that before. I read that, harden you to difficulties, because sometimes when you're in a horrible situation, you have to get some kind of strength in you that hardens you enough to stand up and walk through it. And I feel like God said, I'm going to harden you to get through this valley in a way that you've never seen. It's not going to make you hard-hearted, but it's going to harden you to difficulties because of me and my strength. And that's something that I think people need to hear when they're in that kind of valley. And I wrote a song on my new project called God Will Love You. And I wrote it as a song for my grandkids because I wanted to hear it their whole life. Because it's one thing to say God's going to love you as a child. It's another thing to say God's going to love you when the sun does rise. He's going to smile into your eyes. But it says, God will love you when the sky is gray. He will love you when a tear breaks through. He will listen and he will cry with you. God will listen and will cry with you. And I think we have a weeping Savior who understands, like I said before, depression and despair and brokenness and sin. He understands everything we're going through, and he died to save us from it and through it. And he will. So I pray that you will reach out to a few close people that know you, that love the Lord, and will hold you up and not be judgmental, but just hang with you in this pain and walk you through to the other side. And you can do it in his strength.
You are such an inspiration, Bonnie. Thank you so much for your time today. I want to make sure that everybody knows about the album. It is a self-titled album, so they just look for Bonnie Keen, Keen, and you can find some stuff online about it, and I'm sure it's available wherever you get your music. And then your podcast again is called Women Who Dare to Believe.
Yes.
And that
I have a website too. It's just Bonnie Keen, it's just my name.com. You can buy a CD there if you want it. You can see where I'm going to be doing concerts or whatever. Keep in touch with me there. So, yeah.
Yeah. And happy holidays to you.
You too.
This is going to be listened to, I'm sure, outside of holiday season as well.
Okay.
But
forgive my tree. Forgive my Christmas tree.
But yeah, the Christmas tree is absolutely gorgeous. It's kind of like a little bit blurred, in the background.
Oh, good.
Really nice.
Okay.
Yeah, that's great. So cool. Thank you so much. Thank you for your time, and thank you for what you're doing. And I'm excited for you and for your project.
Thank you so much. This has been an honor to be with you. I appreciate it.